pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Okay, Tybee? Here. Coots?
Here.
Newman?
Here.
Horner?
Here.
McPhail?
Here.
Dennis?
Here.
And Tyler? Here.
Approval or adjustments to the agenda? I believe we want to add on the agenda, personal item, closed session tonight at the end, towards the end,
Personnel.
and, personal item, and Spicer contracts.
So that would be what, 11, and then, or would that be after public comment?
That'll be after E, B11.
Okay.
Is a motion to accept them? Or
I'll
we
make
don't
a
have to?
motion to make the changes.
I'll second.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public announcement. Anybody want to speak? Step forth. 3 minutes at the mic, please.
3 minutes, I don't need that long.
Is that mic turned on, Jenny?
Yep,
I
I did hit the button.
Don't think I need a mic, but,
Probably not.
I just wanted to know what happened to cleaning up Nancy's house, Nancy and Clark's
Clark.
house.
By you, next door to you.
Pardon?
Next door to you,
Well,
that one?
yeah, a couple
Yeah,
houses.
couple houses down. I don't know.
Where's
Yeah.
that at?
On Bell,
Bell
the
Avenue.
one that burned,
Okay.
The-
across from
Chris-
Kansas Street.
Christina and James's house on Florence was cleaned up, and a guy that worked on the crew said they were scheduled to clean up Nancy's also, and then they were told not to. So I just wondered why.
Yeah, there's an insurance dispute, and the adjuster and the homeowner are arguing about how much their payout should be.
Oh.
And so they're having trouble getting to a number, and so that's why they stopped it. According to our building inspector, he's been on top of them trying to get it taken care of, but the insurance company won't budge because they're having a conflict with the previous homeowner.
Okay, answers my question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Thank you, Mrs. Wood. Anyone else? I guess that's time. We'll move on to the council minutes approval for the council meeting on May 8th, first. Anybody have any changes to those minutes, corrections, or anything? Your motion to accept them?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's carried. The minutes for May 22. Any changes or amendments to it? If not, do I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept it. and-
Second?
I'll
Actually, I'll
support.
make the motion to approve them, okay?
Okay.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval carried. Moving on to commission and committee reports. Park and Recreation Committee, May 15th. Any questions on that? If not,
Wait.
go ahead.
I see we, updated quite a few things for the Little League, kind of for the Little League, kind of for the park, a combination thing.
Yeah, we did a few small things that we could pretty easily take on without spending a whole bunch of money.
Okay, just some paths to the,
If
are they
we-
gonna sell concessions this year?
Yeah, they actually, their health department permit was approved, so they,
Okay.
oh, sorry.
So they can now sell hot food.
Okay,
So they're selling hot food along with all the other.
and we put a hot
concessions.
water heater in there?
We did.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep, there's a hot water heater, and we did put the paths in, and there's also like a flat waiting area outside the window so people aren't in the grass.
okay, and then running here about a roof for the, dugout bullpen, whatever it's called.
Yeah, no, we're just trying to see how much they're gonna cost.
Okay,
And we're gonna see if we can't, obviously, if the price is right, along with the large pavilion, cause that's something that we have programmed in the
Mhm.
budget. We're gonna see if we can't slip it in under budget, but we're getting quotes now for that process.
so you're gonna see how much the two cost together and see if it comes in like
And
what
see if
we
it makes
budgeted.
sense to just take, cause the dugouts are way smaller than any other roof in there.
Right,
And so, we thought it would go a long way with the baseball people to
and the
kinda-
two might come in even lower than what the one was budgeted for, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
that's what we're hoping, yeah.
Were these advertised for the bids, or are you just getting them individually?
No, we get them individually. Typically, we get at least 3 quotes.
Okay.
3.
I only say this because I know the company who just started, they're really good, and they'd be cheaper, I know, than anybody else.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got 2 at the moment. We'll do as many bids as we need to get the price right. So that's typically how we try to do it.
I have a question about the concession stand. Does that belong to the Little League or to us?
It's owned by the village, but the Little League has like a permanent access sort of
Okay,
thing with
so
it.
the
They
village could
store
use
this
it.
stuff in-
Yeah.
But we could use it for something here in the village, right?
Yes,
Yeah, they don't own it, they just
Right.
use it.
they just use it.
They've always used it.
They put money into it when it needs maintenance and stuff like that, so it's kind of like a shared use type thing. But
Okay.
we do technically own it as an asset.
And they haven't really used it in a long time, they've used it for storage.
They've used it for storage, but
Yeah.
they did quite a bit of upgrading themselves to the inside of it.
Okay, to make it so they can sell stuff.
Yeah, to make it, yep.
Is there a way we could get a schedule, have the committee submit a schedule so we can post it on our website?
They may have already given us one. Didn't they give us one? Or
Be a nice one place to look.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Oh, you mean for games?
Yeah, for games, yeah.
Is there a motion to accept and file?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Economic Development Corporation, May 17th.
Jenny does good minutes.
Thank you.
Now, this is
try.
this is the planning commission acting as the EDC with a couple people added, is
Yes.
that right?
Yep, yep.
I see where there was some, discussion on how one got left behind and one picked up, and it wasn't done the way they think it was in here. It was, the EDC was put in place to build the industrial park and do all that stuff. And it stayed in place for quite a while, and we did the taxes, and then the DDA came on board before the EDC. We were doing them both at the same time simultaneously.
Yeah.
And they're different things.
Mhm.
But then the EDC became a point where we had done everything that we had done, the sewer and the water and the streets and the lights, and everything had been done, and it just kind of went by the wayside because people started to actually not be available for meetings because they were old. But, and then the DDA never did do anything with the EDC, so they've only dealt with the DDA.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they had the question of, since it looked like there was a rough period where they might have
did.
overlapped, but one stopped, that they thought maybe the people from one board went to the other.
no,
Well, we were looking for documents because all of a sudden there's no documentation. It's just,
There isn't for
it's
the
not,
EDC?
it doesn't exist.
There is up until like 1988, 86
Yeah, someplace in
area.
there, there's nothing after, like, I think
well,
that was.
that kind of makes sense, but, the people on the EDC were representatives of the governmental units that we were taking taxes from. So it has nothing to do with the DDA, which is mostly downtown people and people within that district. So no, they did not overlap at all. Different people.
Any other questions? Motion to accept and file?
I'll motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Planning Commission, June 6th. Any questions on those minutes?
Just for everybody's information, we held a public hearing and nobody came, that's all.
Well, surprise.
I know, and nobody had any written comments to make, so. So, anyway, we did hold it.
Anything else? Motion to accept and file?
So,
Support?
support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Communications. You have your review magazine in your packet. Questions? Comments? You also have an MML, save the date. Michigan Municipal League, I believe. Nothing on that?
It's for the convention if anybody wants to go. The yearly convention.
I go on it.
You didn't get one? You didn't get one?
I read yours. Okay, William Stanuzik from Mosquito Control.
Well, thank you, and you got the last name right, so appreciate
He
that.
came for the beating, huh?
How do you
Yeah.
pronounce your name?
Stanuzik.
Tuesday.
So, yeah,
Well,
my
Mrs.
family's from
Stanuzik lived
St.
right
Charles.
here.
Yes.
Yes, May.
And my
Polish
parents live in town,
pronunciation
so
is Danusha.
very familiar with the area. Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Well, did I get close?
You were close.
you were, yeah. So I'm willing to talk, I can talk mosquitoes. Well, thanks, first of all, Matt, for letting me come speak and being asked to do so. Obviously with mosquitoes, and this is the time of year, and as we talked about water, we know what's coming, right? It's these concerns with basements, drainage, or culverts are blown out and all that wonderful stuff. And I don't mean that's tongue in cheek, but that stuff, that frustrating stuff is going to yield mosquitoes, for certain. So I will let everybody know that that's going to be the case. And one thing we know with St. Charles is we have a very intimate relationship with mosquitoes historically, continually, and presently. So I'm here to answer any questions, or I can go on and on, but I do have some information, some of our service pamphlet I think that may be useful. Whether you can find this on our website too. All this information you can find on our website. Pretty easy to manage. We've cut a lot of that extra stuff. We all get frustrated with websites, but I can leave this with you. And we also have little tips, what people can do around their yard, and also our tire drive, which will be in St. Charles next week on the 20th.
Oh.
So we'll be here doing that. So if anybody's got questions, I can answer those, or I can talk a little bit about what we do and why we do it.
Why don't you go first?
Sure. Okay, well, you know, we always expect St. Charles to be a mosquito, and I'm gonna say issue at some point in time throughout the season. And obviously, I just prefaced this discussion and talked about the amount of water definitely impacts that. More water, more mosquitoes. And as I look at these maps and I see, you know, stormwater sewer system, hey, the more water you can drain, the better, obviously. But if you expand back from the village and see what's on the east side of you, and you being the gateway to the Shiawassee Flats, that's 22,000 acres of mosquito habitat. Okay, and that's where your mosquito problems come from. And it's not just you, it's Swan Creek, it's James, it's Spalding, it's Albee, it's the southern part of the city, and so on and so forth. We have that, you know, it's a functional wetland that works for us, absorbs all this water. Of course, with all this water that's coming up through the Shiawassee from Lansing, not only the 4 inches we got around here in Chesaning, it's all coming this way, and it backs up and floods. So we have that to deal with. And then we have the normal mosquitoes that come out of those permanent wetlands, which you can see as you go by the pallet factory there. Those are your Anopheles mosquitoes, those late season, can be dry as a bone yet. You go to the freezer and something's biting you. Those are Anopheles mosquitoes. Cattail mosquitoes around the 4th of July, they come out from our emergent vegetation.
Is that the actual name?
I can get you, I know.
No, I mean, is that, are
Anopheles,
they
yes,
different
Anopheles.
mosquitoes?
Yes, sure, so we
Okay.
have, thank you. Yeah, so mosquito's not just a mosquito, please, and that's kind of the frustrating part, because people we'd like to think that. Not only is a mosquito not a mosquito, but you have to, you know, control different mosquitoes differently along the way too. But we have about 60 species of mosquitoes that we have in the county. 20 or so we see routinely. They're either, I can name, Aedes vexans is our nuisance mosquito. Culex pipiens is our West Nile virus mosquito. And you'll see some of those names in news releases and things like that along the way. And recently, and last year, you know, end of the season, boy, football games and nothing's worse than Friday night lights and mosquitoes. And that was admittedly last year. And that, what we're finding as these seasons and our weather patterns change, look at this rain. We've got, I know for St. Charles in our rain gauge alone, we've got 10 inches since the middle of May. So in less than a month, you've received 10 inches of rainfall, which is probably more than we received all last season. So we're getting our 100-year rains, it seems like, you know, every other year. So there's more water in the system, higher water table, higher Great Lakes, more mosquitoes. But given this, I don't want to just say, oh, this is all these mosquitoes, woe is. There's things we're doing that, you know, you'll see our yellow trucks, and hopefully you've seen our yellow trucks throughout St. Charles this past week, and since the airplanes stopped flying, and of course everything begins with the airplanes, and we do a lot of that, the state game area with the airplanes to give you that initial into the season relief for mosquitoes. And then it's all rainfall dependent. But we've been out treating flooded fields when I say that. So just think around the high school, you go to just by the football field, you'll see all that standing water even right now. So we treat that routinely. I think we'll be on our 3rd or 4th time. Tomorrow we're going back in and treating that. We do our barrier treatments with our Buffalo truck. That's our wind turbine vehicle. It goes around the DPW perimeter, Kimberly Oaks, and it's not just to benefit those immediate areas, it's to give some relief from the people that frequent those public use areas. The park, for instance, we do some treatment around there. And as always, if people have standing water in their yard or along the river behind them, they're always welcome to call us and have us come check it out, and we'll treat it. It's easier to treat them and get the larvae before they come out as adults, because that spray, which everybody wants to see, that yellow truck, only knocks down what's flying at that time. There's no residual to what we spray, there never has been. With that, it just knocks down what's flying at that point in time. So, and that can be frustrating, because I get it, we can come into St. Charles and we get great access, you got a nice road system, we get in there, we can spray that, and then sometimes, you know, a few hours later, the mosquitoes are back, because they're coming in from those outside areas. So, one way we combat that is we don't want to spend all our time just driving the streets of St. Charles or any village for that. Mind you, we have 27 village, cities, or townships to be concerned with, and 816 square miles that are just as important as St. Charles to us that we want to make sure we maintain. But by getting all these surrounding areas, your neighbors in Brant, Swan Creek, Chesaning, Albee, and even Spalding and around that refuge area, that does make a difference, because those mosquitoes will fly many miles in one night. And that's how you can go from, oh, what a relief, to, oh my God, it's like they weren't even here. And then you call and go, we need you here again tonight. With that too. So,
Can I have a question?
absolutely.
If you spray and like within an hour or so it rains, does that eliminate the use of that spray, or does that spray stay there even if it rains?
So with the spray is, so when it comes out of the back of the truck, so everything comes back to any product we use, and as we all use, even the stuff we put on our roses or treat our lawns with, you got the label, right? You have the directions in the back, that's the label. Excuse me. And that is law. If we cannot go beyond the label. To get to your question, so with the product we use, efficacy is 300 feet from nozzle. Now mind you, if I'm going right down 52 as I head north out and the wind's out of the west, that 300 feet's only impacting what's on the east side of the road. We can't direct the spray, it's all wind pushed. Okay, so that's 300 feet, no more, sometimes a little less if it's still. But usually it dissipates within, you know, tens of minutes with that. So a rain an hour later, no impact. So that's why, like tonight, we're scheduled to be around this area, and hopefully we can get to St. Charles tonight.
Before it rains.
Before it rains. Yeah, we don't want to apply in the heavy rains. Now, if it's a few sprinkles or a little mist, we can still do that. And many, as you know, when you get that humid right before it rains, oh, you run out there to put the pool cover on or cover the grill, the mosquitoes are just atrocious. So they're very active, so that gives us an opportunity to knock down more. But certainly when the rain comes down and starts picking up that product, that's when we shut down. With that, winds and temperatures too. Last year, you know, we got football games coming up, we got all that stuff, we want to get in here. We start at sunset because we got to be after the bees are back at the hives. So, and then we got about 20 minutes, you know, okay, more than that, an hour of spray time before we lose our temperatures. At below 55 degrees or so, mosquitoes stop flying. And what use is spraying and, quite frankly, wasting product when it's not doing anything? And that can be confounding, because yet when you're out mowing lawn during the day, or out raking leaves, even at that point, the mosquitoes are just atrocious. But
So
we
you don't
can't
spray in the
it.
daytime because of
Cannot
bees?
spray in the daytime.
I didn't know that, did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So, and in the past,
I
we
mean,
have
that's good.
spray a little bit before sunset. We're kind of rocking around that period of time, but we have a lot of bees out there, and of course, we're very concerned with those. And that's a label thing, back to that labels law. We work around that a bit. We have very good relationships with our beekeepers. There's a lot of concern with bees, as we all want, honey and pollinators, the importance of that. And there's other ways we're very responsible. So it's, even if we didn't have that sunset clause, there's other things that we do that help, or don't necessarily impact bees. So we're very careful with that.
My husband and I got the whole scientific spiel out at the fair 2 years ago,
Okay.
right? And we made an offer to the fellow out there. He was a very nice fellow, very informative. He can come stand in our front yard. We won't even go make him stand in the backyard where the big standing water is, and chain him to a tree and let him stand out there. And during the day, even not even at night, and see how long before he understands what we're talking about. It is terrible. There's a road in front of my house, and then a row of houses, and then a field, and we get into the Shiawassee Flats over there, right? What I don't understand is, years ago, they used to come down our road and they would point the spray. They pointed it at first one side of the road, and then when they turned around and came back, it would point on the other side of the road. We had far fewer mosquitoes. They went slowly. It was a slow process. Now, when they just racetrack down there in the middle of the road, they don't seem to be getting anything. Our neighborhood is, you can't even you can't barbecue. You couldn't go out in a pool in our yard because you race from the house to the car, and you hope that you don't get too many in the car with you. I mean, it's terrible. Now, last year was really, really bad. And I don't understand, in places where they don't have mosquitoes as bad as we do, I think you spray as much as what you do out here. Why don't we get anybody affected by the Shiawassee Flats area, why don't we get a heavier duty spray program?
You do. So obviously we spray where mosquitoes are, and I don't doubt you. Yes, I would not be able to stand out in that tree. I know, I grew up around here. I've lived in St. Charles a number of years. I've been on the back roads as a youth around the area. I will certainly not debate you on that. Now, the speed that we treat at, so with our trucks, we have smart flow. Okay, that's a techie term. And I don't mean to throw more science at you and things, that's not my intention. It's just our flow rates on the trucks. So we have, some of our machines are just 2 settings. It's a 10-mile-an-hour setting. You gotta be traveling. Now again, if I sit in your yard with the spray on, again, it's only going 300 feet. That's like you asking me to paint the wall and you walking up with a spray paint can and just holding one spot. I'm not painting anything, I'm just wasting product. What's dead within that 300 feet is gonna stay dead. So us staying in one place, the idea of sitting in one area or spraying for a period of time, we're doing no good. The idea that what we want to do good, a little bit to your point, is we want to get in your area and then get back again as quickly as possible. And when I said I started to go where the mosquitoes are, is we had some townships that are sprayed half as much as other townships or villages. And that was the case last year. St. Charles is usually one of our higher spray areas because it needs it. And I will not debate that with you whatsoever, because I know. And we see that in our traps and where we go out and sample standing water for mosquitoes and things like that. We see that. And we try to get as many as we can, but we know, like you said, you're right on the interface, and that's where the female biting mosquitoes are flying forth from. So thinking of pumping water, as many of us are doing right now, think of the spray as a pump, that we can come in and pump that mosquitoes out or control the mosquitoes. But until that pressure lessens surrounding you, they will come back in. Now you want to run the pump more often, but we want to treat more often too. But we do, like I said, other places are just as important to us as St. Charles, with understanding that we may be in St. Charles much more than we are somewhere else. We don't look at a calendar and go, oh, it's time for this. Sometimes it sets up like that because, like with all this rain being border to border, we're probably going to be going from, around the clock, so to speak, with treatment, because everybody's going to be feeling it. So,
Do you still make available those donuts to put in water?
So thank you, and I'll leave these with you. It has some services that we do, and thank you for bringing
So
that up.
if she has a lot of standing water and it's been there all spring, it might benefit her to come in and draw a
Oh,
map of where it is. and
Best thing to do
put
is
down-
call us and have
Call
us come
you.
out.
Cause we used to hand them out here if they do
Yes.
a map of where, we
And
don't
we
do that
still,
anymore.
we still offer
We
that.
get the
And-
We do
granules.
that.
Yep,
They're not
Granules?
donuts, they're
Okay.
little
Mhm.
junk
They used to be those
granules.
donuts they just tossed out in.
yeah,
the-
those are.
Yep.
Were
Probably,
nice.
this is aging myself
was.
now, okay?
But we certainly, you got standing water, give us a call. So that it's always easier to get in the water, and every mosquito does count.
Mhm.
So we think of the nuisance and the biting, like you said, to go out to grill, you
Yeah.
light it up, and that's just another, like an animal with heat and CO2 coming out, it brings them in. But, yes, we wanna get back and we want that wind to blow just enough to get to where it needs to get and get down every road and have it be a great spray night. But weather changes by the minute, and with an hour's time, the ideal spray temperatures may change a bit, but boy, if we can kill half of what we're trying to, that's gonna make a difference, and we'll try to get back again.
Does it do any good to call? I mean, to call and say, hey, the mosquitoes are
Oh,
really bad, will they come out?
Certainly it does. And, sometimes we'll give you we were there last night, and we're gonna try to be back there again, and many times you don't get that. I'm gonna call and they'll be back in a couple days. Honestly, that may not be the case. But a lot of times, especially if there's a recent emergence, like I would guess that in the middle of next week, we get our summer temperatures back, you're gonna notice something, you're like, oh boy, feels like September last year. We have traps, we have a trap network, we have a trap here in St. Charles. So we're monitoring populations, our biology department's always putting traps around. And of course, our foot crews and the phone calls, people let us know, we expect them to. And I'm always, willing to discuss, kind of whether it's more clarification or downright frustration with things. Because nothing's more personal than being bit by mosquitoes or your loved ones, your little ones, coming in with
Grandkids.
mosquito bites. My littlest is very allergic to them, and believe me, she lets me know it. I get to hear you're not doing your job for your family. That's tough. And mind you, my parents live in St. Charles, and I always hear it from my father that lets me know the mosquitoes are bad. So
I have a couple questions
Yeah.
for you.
yeah,
Are you allowed to spray? How close to the flats can you get?
we can get right on the perimeter of that. They'll allow for some drift
Yeah.
in there. Wind's hard to control, so we'll go down.
But you
Pirate
don't,
Road.
but the way the wind blowing, you still take the same route.
Yeah.
So the houses that are right on the border of the flats, they still get what they're normally gonna get,
Sure,
depending on the wind.
Yeah, it could, obviously Southwest normally during the
Okay.
season. But, we get, I see these nice wonderful maps here, you see all the streets, so we're able to get both sides of the river. And we have long drives, so I know there's confusion sometimes, why do you go down this person's drive and not someone else's? Well, that long drive allows us more penetration into mosquito habitat. So to your point, if you had a lot of long drives or access into the state game area, you could get more control back there with the spray. And that long drive, as you go into Swan Creek, which St. Charles Village goes into, and as you go more towards Brant, as you approach your borders, we have a lot of long drives that allows us to get just into this nice vegetation, which I'm seeing around here, which is, what makes St. Charles nice is having that woods. Getting that truck back an extra 300 or more feet is great for us. So
And you-
that's why we're doing it. So it is realized obviously by the homeowner, but mosquitoes know no borders. You could have a neighbor that has a neglected swimming pool that quite frankly could be breeding millions of mosquitoes a year. And we go after that type of habitat, not the individual. We just want to treat that for everybody. So numbers do make a difference, and mosquito control may not happen on your property, but it's happening in your community. And that's our first, community first. Sometimes individual service fits into schedules, and we can do that. If you have an event, you can call. We do offer our priorities. We've done that. We still honor that today. But if mosquitoes get as bad as I think they're going to get, then we'll limit the number of priorities, because I can do 3 miles of road for every house I do a priority for. So, I think the community would side, but we understand there's community events, parades happen, festivals happen, park events happen, and we certainly help community with that too. We're always sensitive and
And
open
you
to that.
change up the chemicals depending on what mosquito you're going after?
With that is, with our adulticide term, the spray, so adulticide when I say that. The spray we use it's a permethrin product. So years ago, many of you can remember the smell of our product, that was malathion. So we had resistance with malathion. And resistance is, think about your antibiotics you get for the infections. Eventually they don't work because you overuse. Well, that's what we found with the malathion product. This was back in 2008, so we switched to permethrin, and we've had good success with that. So that's the spray. And permethrin is something that's probably in every over-the-counter, treat your bush, treat your, maybe for some pantry bugs or something like that on primers of houses and things. So we use that, but we do use another product that has deltamethrin in it. We use it in St. Charles occasionally because we get such good penetration with our permethrin that we certainly don't wanna make it harder to control mosquitoes tomorrow.
Does it affect other insects as well?
Very good question. So with everything, there's risk. You know, we talked about bees a bit. So the way we can back or mitigate that risk to non-targets, whether we're concerned with moths, bees, or some other lightning bugs, let's say, which we seem to have had a bumper crop of even last year. So our trucks are calibrated, and there's another big word, but we have them calibrated to produce a certain size droplet. Okay, so that looks like a big fog, but it's made up of tiny droplets that are the size that they can penetrate the side of mosquitoes, and when they absorb that, it kills them, but a lot of those droplets can't impact June bug size flying insects or even moths, because, again, and I don't mean to sound sciencey on this, but when they fly, they create an air curtain that the droplets can't get past, physics of it. And also the dose makes the control on this. We're using a certain amount, we're using mid-label rate, so it's enough to kill the mosquitoes and not overkill. Once something's dead, it's dead. So we don't want to do any more, because that just exacerbates problems or opens us up to harm which we don't want to cause with things.
And when you say the flying, does that include when they're sitting, like the adults are in the grass, or do they have to be in the air?
You could have some perimeter effect. If something's on a perimeter and the spray goes through, you could have some impact, but really they need to be in flight, or at least that activity, to where when that spray is into the air for that, tens of minutes, there's a chance within that, in conditions are right, a female that's wanting to feed, blood feed, is gonna fly at some point in time during that. The idea is they would then fly through it, so.
Okay. And then you mentioned West Nile as one of the problems that we've been having.
Yes.
Do you have a count or anything of this area?
Good. I can
Infections?
definitely get that for you. When we think West Nile virus, and when I do press releases or you read those, you could read those, whether they're from the state level. And when you see where most of the human cases of West Nile virus are oftentimes are urban areas. So we think cities like Detroit, Grand Rapids seem to have been the hot spots. It goes to, I mentioned that Culex mosquito likes urban environments. But, this is more suburban type, village type. It does have its West Nile virus. We have gotten West Nile virus positive crows. We've got mosquito collections out of here with virus. Not at the same amounts as you would find in the city or more urban, suburban settings, but it's still around. Now with that, I just did a press release today, and I think if you probably watch the news tonight, you might hear a snippet or read one of the websites. It seems like you can't get a newspaper now, but you'll see that we have our first evidence of West Nile virus in mosquito collections, and that wasn't in this area. And then we found a new not a new virus, I should say a reemerging virus. It's been thought to be in the background for in this area, given what types of mosquitoes we have. It's called Jamestown Canyon virus. And that's something that, due to regional occurrences in the Midwest, or I should say the Great Lakes area, Wisconsin and Minneapolis, us working with Michigan State University decided to start looking for it, and we've already found it. Now, with these concerns is when it comes to virus, and thank you for mentioning that, that's our first priority. If disease is gonna take precedence over nuisance, but mind you, normally when we're treating for disease, we're treating for nuisance, and it doesn't really interrupt things, aside from maybe sending a truck or two into an area ahead of things. But these viruses, most people that get bitten by an infected mosquito, most will be asymptomatic, so show no symptoms. They get 80% of the cases, so if you're bitten, 80% of us in this room would likely show no symptoms. 20%, I know that adds up to 100, but 20% may show fever or something like it's just knocked down or slowed down for a day or two or a week, and then less than 1% could end up hospitalized. But with encephalitis, meningitis, that can be very debilitating, very expensive, and life-changing for families, and of course, the individual, in some cases, death. So that's something that we're obviously want to avoid here and do everything we can to first find it and then respond to it. And that can happen, you know, within St. Charles. So again, what we do within St. Charles to combat the threat of West Nile virus, you have your catch basins, you know, that, boy, you hope they work with the rain coming. We treat those periodic, monthly, with a product that lasts for a month, that kills those mosquitoes, those Culex mosquitoes that you find in there. The sewage lagoons that you have, we don't have to treat them all, but the ones that breed, the cells that breed, we'll use a nice bacterial product that fits with water additive permits and things like that, so we're not getting troubled by Eagle, which was the DEQ, now Eagle. So, and of course, neglected swimming pools, and sometimes we're knocking on doors, walking through the streets of St. Charles, just going to the backyards, talking to people about, you know, where you can find mosquitoes around your yard. And I have a little handout here. Mosquito control around the yard starts with people, you know, us individuals, communities.
My last one is, bats in like purple martin houses. Do they actually do any good?
I
or
would
is
never
it more-
dissuade anybody from, you know, having a bat house or anything with bird houses. So bats, you know, you'll go on the internet, you can find both sides of everything, right? We all
Right.
know that, it's hard to find any information on the internet. We can find stuff we agree with, and we tend to stick with that. But the studies that have been done on bats have oftentimes been enclosed studies where you put a bat in a cage and release mosquitoes and count the number of mosquitoes it eats. Well, you put me at a table with just potato chips thrown around, I'll eat the potato chips, but if you put a hamburger somewhere, I'm gonna eat that. So kind of using kind of some food analogies to say when bats are out flying, they're gonna seek, they don't wanna waste any energy, just like you.
Opportunistic?
Thank you. Yep, they're gonna go for the biggest meal.
Alright.
Now, mind you, with mosquitoes too, I know there's mosquitoes in St. Charles, but you're not gonna get a bumper crop of bats from this. Now, what happens is when the mosquitoes that come out of this floodwater come out, there's gonna be too many mosquitoes for bats to eat anyways. They can't depend on mosquitoes as a food source. They're nice, hey, let's have some chips with the hamburger type thing, but there's certainly, especially the amount that's out, there's not enough bats in the county to make a difference when you get these nuisance mosquitoes. For background, normal, everyday mosquitoes, maybe some summer or some permanent water mosquitoes you get out of swamps, they may make a difference, may help. Nature does eat a lot of mosquitoes, but there's a lot of mosquitoes that get out, as we all know.
Alright. That's all of my questions.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The flyover, the pellets you drop, okay, with all the rain, how long do those pellets last?
I would like, the pellets last for 24 to 48 hours.
Is that all?
That's it.
So you're gonna do another flyover?
Well, we don't do that. Now, hey, and if you, let me say this, we don't look at what we did last year and say, oh, we're gonna do that this year. We're always looking at new things, so I don't wanna say no, and in the near future, no, we don't. That's quite an effort, and what allows us, why we're able to do close to 50,000 acres of spraying water is because we have weeks to do it, because temperatures are low, mosquito development slower. But this time of year, mosquitoes can go from hatch to adults in 5 days. I can't fly 50,000 acres in 5 days. Another thing is, as we know, we got a nice open canopy in the spring, and then right now we have a closed canopy, pretty dense stuff too. You walk and mosquitoes are gonna get you first of all, but it's dark. That material can't penetrate that canopy to get to the water. It has difficulty. So then we'd have to use more, we use very little, goes a long way, but if we can't get to that effectively like we can in the spring, we'd have to use more of it. So then it just gets,
So you're
it's
saying-
time
Yeah.
and expense, but that being said, there may be opportunities in the future, I don't ever wanna rule anything out.
So you're
As we
saying
develop
boots and granules?
boots and granules. But there's some other products we use that have extended release, that is, you could put them down, let's use by the St. Charles football field. There's products, and we're looking at opportunities of using that you can put down, and they last for 30 days. Now, when they're not covered with water and controlling mosquitoes and dry down, they're fine. There's not really any risk to anything around, but when they reflood, it'll re-release. Now, that's a different type of active ingredient. That's not a bacteria. That's now a growth regulator. It's the same growth regulator we use in catch basins, and it really targets those mosquito larvae in there. So we're certainly looking at other options to bring.
Can we buy them?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
No, and we're not using anything that's restricted use or, all our technicians are licensed through, we have to be required by the state. But the products we're using are what we term general use, but they'd be more equivalent to like a lot of agricultural products. You'd have to find the right place to buy them and things. And we buy in bulk, so we get admittedly a heck of a discount. We're very appreciative of that.
I do have one more question. With the amount of rain and the amount of treatment and everything, how are we looking for funding and everything for next year without doing another millage?
We are fine.
Yeah.
We are fine. We
Everything's-
have a very healthy fund balance. A lot of it's been because of technology, and we're bringing a lot of technology in, so we're investing. So the idea is everything's entered at a point of, like you think of point of sale or point of service, much like if you have any individual providing lawn service, or even the UPS guy shows up and you sign off on stuff. We kind of have that capability, so we're not chasing paper and doing all this stuff. We go dot to dot, and I'd say that's from one habitat to the next, and that's real-time auditing by me. I can sit there and watch production. I can see if production isn't good, we're moving somewhere else where it's gonna be. So, we're investing in that, we're looking at new products. I'm not gonna, drones are being used out there readily, out in California and things, I guess where the real money is. But no, and that's something we're not thinking about now. During the season, we all have limits on what we can do with what equipment we have and product we have on hand. But we certainly always allot for the idea that if we need more product, we're gonna get more product. I'll let you know right now, we treated every ditch in Saginaw County one time already. And we're coming back again. We'll probably be in St. Charles Swan Creek maybe this weekend again. But we've already used more of that granular material that comes out of the airplanes, but on our foot crews and trucks, more within this, gosh, I'd even say 3-week period than we did all the last year. So, and it's boom and bust. Some years we're saving product, and we may use more catch basin products in dry years, because it's more of a disease concern. But this year, it's miles of road, yard to yard, boots, and spreaders, and sometimes, we got backpack spreaders, you'll hear this, what it sounds like a spray truck spraying during the day. That's our ditch trucks, it's using that same blower off the motor of our ULV that dispenses that BTI granules into the ditches. And by treating miles of ditches, that's miles of habitat. So that's rich with mosquitoes, and it gives us the biggest bang for the buck in the time that we got, and sometimes it's 5 days. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I leave this information
Yeah.
with.
Leave it
please.
with,
Yeah.
leave it with Jenny, because she can. see
Yes,
it.
and we will be at the farmer's market, mosquitoes biting or not, so we are scheduled to show up for that, so we'll certainly answer questions as they come up, and you could always call for things, so thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Moving on to payment of claims. Everybody review the expenditures.
Matt, this sheet here, do we have $2.5 million in the bank?
Yeah.
No,
Oh my
quite
God.
not.
Wow, wow, just sitting there.
Yeah.
We had 3,
Sitting
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Not just sitting
I
there.
had a question. Were you done, Lois?
Yes, I'm finished, thank you.
I had a question on page 3, the very top, Farm and Auto and the Ace Hardware one. It looks like we're doing repairs on the DPW building. Was that the garage door, or what was that?
No, I'm not sure what the $39 is, if something small.
Oh, I was looking at 451.27. There's nothing by
Oh,
there.
that's equipment.
That's in the equipment.
Oh, in the
fund, and
equipment,
I'm not
okay.
sure what that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had some tools and they had to do some cheaper kind of maintenance on the mowers and stuff like that, that they could do themselves, that they didn't have to like take it elsewhere to do. So
Okay.
just kind of all the bills added up
And
to that
that's
amount
the
for that.
same probably with the Ace Hardware one, on the bottom, the 148.
I believe so, yep. I can look at we've got the bills right here, so anytime you have any questions, I can pull them
just wondered
for
what
you.
was fixed.
Well, one's in general and one's in equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, the one was the parks and then the other one was the equipment, so more than likely it was probably something that they were doing with the, in the park.
Okay. And then on page 4, oh, that's pretty self-explanatory. Page 5, yep. That's our visa, the 2,236. Uniforms and clothing, that isn't, the clean, well, that must be buying clothes, right?
Yep, I believe that was the DPW clothing.
Okay.
Yep, that was for
They-
Don and Rick.
They go out and purchase the clothing for them.
And I see there's 629, repairs and maintenance. What was that?
That was in the DDA, and they purchased a weed sprayer, so they
Oh.
could take care of some of the flower beds and, sidewalk cracks and stuff like that, that gets
Oh.
weeds.
Okay,
As a response to what we had going on last year.
yeah. The bottom one was large also, the 681, is that for our office?
Nope, that was for the park, that was the hot water heater for the concession stand. That was paint for the park and the bleachers, and the little projects that they were doing in the park.
The small ones in the minutes.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of small ones added up
Okay.
from like an invoice from somebody.
Yeah, when I get the invoices, I put them by what the categories are and then I do them as a total there.
Are we getting any help at all from the baseball people? They're gonna pay their own food license?
Yeah, so basically what we did is we were gonna do some things, and then some of the stuff that they wanted us to do, they're gonna pay for, so it was kind of a partnership, so that neither of us is paying for a major amount, so we're just doing small things here and there, and then they're paying for a lot of other upgrades to the park.
Okay. I have another question on page 6 and 7. Actually, we've been hiring this Rodney Cantu for the lagoon testing. Then on the same dates of May of 2019, there's on page 9, there's a Michael for lagoon testing and a Daniel Escamilla for lagoon testing. 3 people test lagoons.
Yeah, Rod has 2 additional employees that he uses to complete the testing throughout the year. And he was receiving he was sending the invoice under his name previously of the full amount. And in this way, he sent us 3 separate invoices with the different guys' names on them so that they would get paid individually.
So that's almost 2,000 for,
Yep, and that's the normal amount that we would pay
Is
just
that
him.
monthly?
No,
not
that's
monthly.
the annual
That's
discharge.
the annual thing.
Semi-annually.
Semi-annual, okay.
So yeah, we took the last bill and we divided it by 3 and it was
Does he
basically
send it
what
to
it
you
was.
like that in clumps?
He has been now.
Okay.
This one, he did send it like that.
Okay.
He
Yeah, I
hadn't
don't-
before.
Yeah, he said he was taking too much of a tax hit doing it just himself, cause he would take it and then he would pay the guys, so now
Okay.
this
So
way
now
they're
we're
all
paying
gonna
each
get,
one of them.
yep, they're
So
all
now
get
they're all
a,
paying their own taxes.
Yeah.
And soon will you ever be able to test for that?
No, these are lab samples.
These are the lab people, okay.
I just wondered, because I'd never seen the other 2 names before, so.
yeah, those
That's
were new
really
for us
good.
too.
That's
You
done
didn't
twice a
notice that?
year.
Oh,
I didn't.
notice that. I thought, well, I'm
Spring and
reading
fall.
it.
On page 5, were you done?
No, I'm done.
Page 5, Acorn, cut down a tree. Where was that at?
That was Marcy and Bell.
Okay, are we still, we had talked before about putting those out to bid.
Yep, we did.
Yep,
Okay.
we get 3 to 5 bids on every tree we cut down.
All right, that's all I had.
Have we got any outstanding, bids right now for trees to be taken down yet?
I think we do have a list of trees that we need to cut down, but I'm not sure if we've gotten bids
Yeah,
on all.
we
of
have a
them.
list, but we haven't gotten bids yet on them,
Are any of them really bad?
so, well, they're all bad.
They're all dead, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're all-
Or-
I think there's 5 or 6 that we
There's,
need
I
to
think,
really take care
yeah,
of.
5 or 6 on there.
We
There's
don't
some
take down good trees, right?
No.
No.
I think there's some on Walnut. They're spread out. through the
Okay.
village, so.
At our last council meeting, someone noticed that cameras were bought, and I think Chris asked how much, and you said around 1,000. It wasn't on our last one, is it on this one, for the cameras that were bought?
No, it didn't make this month's bill.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it was because the cutoff is, I think that like the 28th,
Oh,
or
okay.
that might be when the
For
bill
the-
is
for the
due.
billing
But
statement.
it's a like a 25, 28 day credit card cycle, so I think it just
Okay.
hit on this next
Where
one
were
that
they
we have
bought?
got.
Home Depot.
I have a question on page 4, to the law firm, Masood, Shooter, Peters, et cetera. What are they doing for us right now?
There are labor attorneys,
I know, but why are they billing us now for this amount of money?
because we are negotiating a union contract with the police department.
Okay. Did you see that one?
Well, I knew he'd been talking to him.
Any other questions?
I make a motion, we pay the bills in the sum of $118,050.60.
Support?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Moving on to new business, resolution 1910 to amend chapters 2 and 3 of the zoning ordinance. What you got on that, Matt?
We went through the amendment process with the council and with the zoning, with the planning commission. Planning commission held a public hearing as required by law at their most recent meeting, which we had set up a special meeting for that purpose on the 6th of June. They opened it, there was nobody there, so they closed it, and then they voted unanimously to make the recommendation to council as follows in the resolution here.
This is the results of that.
Yeah, this is the results of that.
It's supposed to take away the ambiguity. It's supposed to make it very clear that you have to have a building before you have an accessory
Yeah,
structure.
a primary use before this, the accessory use. Yeah.
Is there any questions on the resolution as it's written? Well, I
Fix my
guess,
question.
do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
I make a motion, we accept resolution 19-10 to amend chapters 2 and 3 of the zoning ordinance to reflect changes as recommended by the planning commission.
I'll support.
Roll call?
I'll support.
Oh, sorry. You're usually faster than that.
Sorry.
Did you get all that?
I did. Tylee,
Yes.
Coots,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
McPhail,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
and Tylee.
Yes.
All those opposed, and we are all set, it passed.
Okay, good. One thing.
Moving on.
So we'll publish that, just as a quick thing, we'll publish that in the newspaper, and once it's published, it will get a affidavit of publication, then it'll go into effect then.
Are there so many days we have to wait after that, or?
I don't believe so, I think as soon as it's published, it takes effect.
Okay.
What paper will that be in, do you know?
Tri-County.
The Tri-County.
I mean, when? Which page, you know what
What
date?
week?
We'll have to get with, Jenny will have to meet the deadline tomorrow, I think by 10 in the morning, and we can publish the
I
link.
think if you look at another one, you'll see if it says something about days until it takes effect. Just pick out one that's been published before, because it seems to me there were,
I thought there were several days that you
like, I
had to
thought there
wait.
was like 45 days, but that, I could be totally wrong, so.
Yep, we'll check into it, it's all set off by the publication in the
Mhm.
newspaper, so we'll get that taken care of as soon as we can.
Okay. Departmental reports, DPW report.
I have two questions for you. Okay. First one, over on Fulton Street, those horrible repairs over there. With the weather being so bad and everything, when will we be able to repair that street?
Well, the stone mix is basically in place, but it's not solid enough yet to open the road up, so.
So we're just waiting on the weather then, right?
The hole to dry out enough so it can be driven on.
Okay, so the stone's there, it just needs
Yeah,
to be
stone
driven
mix.
over?
Well, they're settled enough to,
Okay.
I mean.
Does every rain make it worse?
it
Is the
doesn't
stone
help.
sinking into the
No,
sand?
it's
Okay,
settled. I mean, actually helps compact it, but it's not dry enough to drive
Okay.
on, so. The road is open one lane, you can get through there,
Yeah.
but it's not. And then we'll pave it this fall when everything's solid again.
Okay.
How's the process going on the hydrant that's there?
Right now, it's shut off, we're not, it has not been repaired.
Is that going to get repaired?
It depends probably how quick we're gonna do a water line repair. It's in a very sensitive area, and they have 2 hydrants on the north side of the building that are just as close, and I guess that's where their emergency connection to the building is.
Yes.
So, there's-
Okay, my second question, you went to the city of Saginaw, meeting on the water, it says 8% increase the next 3 years. Excuse me, is that 8% over 3 years or 8% each year?
8% each year.
Okay,
And, plugged with cotton material, what would that be?
Well, we're only guessing, but
Mhm.
there seem to be some type of
What it usually is?
sanitary, some of them look almost like sanitary wipes, but other ones are, it's a heavier cotton material.
They're like large cloth. It almost looks like cloth diapers, honestly.
I mean, we
in
got
some
several
cases.
pictures if you're interested in looking at them.
be nice if I
Okay.
could find out who
Yeah,
does
you
that.
don't wanna see it. I mean, there is
No,
one that
I
has
don't
little
wanna
rubber
see it.
duckies on it, though.
Yeah, I just wondered.
It seems every time we get a large inflow, that's when we seem to have issues.
So all those things that people buy that say this is flushable, not
It's not
necessarily.
really flush.
No.
And I
Just
think
if you get too many together.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we even
Okay.
get a large amount through the pumps out the lagoons, the primary lagoon is, you can see them on the stones out there. in the primary pond, so.
Well, do you think those are purposefully done in there, though?
Well, I don't
I
know
think
if they're
people use
purpose,
them.
people use them and don't realize the
Flush
consequences
Okay.
of flushing them down the
All right,
toilet.
so-
I mean,
Not the same as the mop situation, then?
no, I don't think we've rarely actually seen mops lately, it's, yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize what happens when they use these things and they get flushed down the toilet.
Well, it's not their septic system that they're worried
Right.
about.
Yeah, if they had their own septic system.
They wouldn't be
they'd
doing
have
it.
a different view from, yeah, because we had that one large event, it really affected us.
Any other questions?
I do have one question. We went out, I think it was Genesee, and there was a big pile of black dirt, and I think it's where they compost at for the city of Saginaw as you go into
Okay,
Rio
yeah.
Beach City.
On Washington, or not Washington.
Is it Washington? Yes, Washington. I'm so good with Saginaw. And, is that where they, have that black dirt available to people?
I think city residents it is available.
You have to be
Okay.
you can pay for it.
Right.
Can you buy it? Or
Yeah,
have to be a city
I
resident
think
to
it's
get it
like
free?
$16 a load or something like that
beautiful
if you're
stuff,
not a
whatever
resident.
it
Yeah,
is.
they have, I
It's
think
all
they-
sifted.
Yeah, they have a
their own
sifter.
Yeah.
Mixer and grinder and all that stuff.
Okay,
so.
after all those years, I've never really seen
Yeah,
it,
it's up there
so.
by the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Now, you're mowing. I brought it to Matt's attention twice now. The second time it was taken care of, and I appreciate that, about grass clippings getting mowed into the roadway. For motorcyclists, it's like ice to them. It's extremely dangerous. Is that something that we can make sure doesn't happen again?
Well, there's, that area you're talking about, there's no good way to mow it, it's either in the flower bed or the road. And if it does get mowed in the roadway, it is blowing off the road.
Because the first time it wasn't, the second time, after I came here and talked to Matt, he took care of it, and it was, you guys took care of it within, not long after.
Yeah, in that area, we're damned if we do or somebody's gonna give it to us.
I feel like I would rather clippings be put into a flower bed than risking someone's life potentially by putting it to the roadway. And not even that, if you take it into, it rains, all those grass clippings are now going into our storm drains.
But it's usually done on a Thursday and we sweep that next morning, so.
Okay, but even if they are and it rains after, they're all getting flushed into our storm drains. Again, it's gonna clog them too, so why would we do something to aid in that?
just be prepared to hear it on the other end then too, for if we roll them the other way. So, let them know why we're doing it, if you hear it.
I mean, I have no problem letting
No,
them,
no, I
because
mean,
the safety
I'm
of
just
my
saying-
residents in this community and the people coming through here should be our main priority. Not whether we hurt someone's feelings because we cut grass into a, a flower bed.
But anyway, we're being mindful of it now, we're trying to do the best we can, it's a tough area to mow, so. Just be aware you might get a call from the other group, so, and explain to them where we're coming from.
Any other questions of the DPW? Follow the report and Spicer Engineering Report. You've been waiting all this time.
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Neil Nowak with Spicer Group. I believe you have my engineering report in front of you, and I welcome any questions.
Is this from you two, the stormwater?
Yes, and
Okay, that goes on the table.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well, I got two of them, but, okay.
One of them is stormwater, the other one is wastewater, and this is something you guys saw at the special meetings.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Gotcha, got
And,
it.
and what Neil's gonna ask you today is to, either adopt or amend that as your mission statement for those two asset management
Yeah.
plans.
Nothing to do with the sewer and water. Yeah.
Not yet, it's
Not
the
yet.
asset management
Yeah.
plan.
nope, that just sets kind of a guideline of metrics to assess how, the performance of a system and goals that you'd like to meet with each utility, so.
Yeah, we went over this.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we covered it.
Yep,
Yeah.
at the special meeting.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with either one of these. I think they're
Well,
good.
you know what, I would like to have had that before the meeting, I always have to gripe at you guys, but I always like to read everything ahead of time.
Mhm.
So it'd be nice even if we could get a system where you could email them to us or something, so we could see them ahead of time.
Definitely.
But that would have explained your comment down there, if you had any questions on that, or this other paper, so.
Oh, that's what you called me.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
called you about,
Okay,
now,
gotcha.
cause I called her in a panic.
Yeah. I told her it was fine.
She said, it's okay. So, yeah, all right, I know now what we were talking about.
See why, you got one of mine, I got one of yours.
No, I got two separate ones.
This whole
I'm good.
season has
All right.
made me rethink
Stormwater
stormwater.
and waste.
Yeah, I mean, with the stormwater stuff that we've got, and that's, I don't know, at some point we may have to be looking and talking about that because the drainage around here is just terrible.
Right, it's something that kind of gets, pushed on the back burner until you get
Right.
rain,
Till you
then
need
you
it.
notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we pushed it way back when we got
Yeah.
the water and sewer.
Right, except for the
So,
water and the sewer
Yeah.
are so essential, but, yeah, it's bad this year.
So what do we have to do with these?
we have to adopt.
We
Simply
have
approve
to
them.
make a motion?
Yep.
Any questions on these?
No,
I don't, but why are they both called part 4 and why are they both called
Mission.
Because,
level? Are you gonna put them in different parts of the?
yes, yep, with the SAW grant,
Yeah.
there's a wastewater report and a stormwater report, set up with the same structure, so.
Two separate reports, same sort of structure.
Okay.
Part 4 is the mission statement
look
for
at the bottom
both.
of your page.
Oh, I
They need
did.
to be
One says-
adopted separately.
One says December 2018
Well, they
and
were
one says
dated-
March of
Yeah,
2018.
they were dated at different times.
Yeah, yep, that's just when
Okay,
it happened.
okay.
So would we just call this wastewater asset management, level 4, and then
Stormwater.
stormwater, level 4? Or level of service, I
Level
mean?
of service, yes, yep.
Is that how we would do each one separately? All right.
You wish to make a motion?
Yeah, if everybody's all set, then I make the motion, yeah, for both of these. First one would be wastewater asset management plan, level of service.
Do you want to do
Support?
separate?
Yeah, we're gonna do it separate.
Okay, so
yeah.
I support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then
Wastewater is passed.
stormwater asset management plan, level of service. I'd like to make a motion on that one too.
Support?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accepted?
I assume we're gonna get all of these back in a plan someday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get an asset management plan that's probably.
Yeah, big one.
Uh-huh,
Couple inches thick.
okay, gotcha.
Now, we are you gonna tell us about your report? Anybody got any questions on the?
Well, I do, I have a question on, water and sewer.
Step right up.
We were, I think, supposed to discuss them, in our regular meetings. Do you remember what we talked about the last time?
Yes.
And, we never really did decide anything on either one of those yet. So are we going to take those one at a time and make a decision off of those
Scenarios.
wonderful graphs that we all have,
Right.
that we were gonna take home and
Right,
study?
with our eyes crossed.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, those with the itty bitty little print on it.
Well, somebody, I guess
So-
somebody.
I thought that was
I
the
mean-
plan, we were
I mean,
gonna
yeah,
bring
you
them
had kinda
back.
decided what you wanted to do,
Yeah,
but we hadn't all reached
Right.
quite a
Right.
conclusion.
yeah.
So do you think we should start that at the next meeting
I think,
again?
I think we need to get it going, yeah.
Cause you need this by October?
November.
No, well, let's say October.
Okay. Yeah, that just to be, yeah, see.
Yeah.
So would you like John Kasor to come back at the next meeting then and prepare to discuss the rates again?
I don't,
I don't know if we need,
I don't know if we need help.
no,
Just
Okay.
somebody
I think we
from
need
your
somebody
place.
from your place that can, will help us decide between cast iron and 4-inch mains and
Okay,
that kind of
Yeah.
thing, is
Okay.
what we were more
yeah, we wanna
looking
just
at.
narrow it
We
down.
know what it's gonna cost, I don't
all
think
right,
Yeah.
he can change it, we can make it cost a little less if we wanna juggle the numbers around a little bit. But
okay.
I'd really rather us decide
On the technical.
what we're going
Review.
after,
We'll be prepared
okay,
next meeting then.
okay.
Alright.
Okay.
So we'll have our graphs and everything with us.
I have mine,
Yeah.
did you keep yours?
Oh, yes, but they're scribbled up, you know.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
All my
okay.
questions.
it's okay.
Just so we have
We
them,
all
I think we're
have
gonna
them, you
need
don't
them.
have to bring them back,
Yeah.
we have them.
But I'm
think-
wondering,
did
will
you
there be
keep
something
yours?
for the
Mhm.
public to
Oh,
see,
yeah.
in case somebody from the public wanted to see that?
Yes, we can bring additional handouts. for-
Sure.
Definitely, so.
That would help, yeah.
I'm sure you noticed these giant maps too. Those are
Yep.
educational.
I did, coming in, yeah, that'll help other people
Yeah, it
understand
will.
what we're looking at.
The plan is to kind of keep them lingering around here, so whenever there's a
Okay.
meeting, people can come and take a look and read it. And the one over there in the corner is a pretty good indicator of what the water system looks like. So
Well, it's definitely gonna affect their bills, and they need to know what we're looking
They
at.
need to know why, they need to know what's going on.
Yep.
And each map is just kind of briefly details a condition, found through the SAW grants and.
We have
it's
all
color
these
coded,
maps
so.
at home, don't we?
We
Yes.
have these.
We have these.
These are the ones that we wanted
Blown up.
Blown up, okay.
yeah. And with a little bit of description and stuff, yeah.
Okay,
and Spicer, when you guys get closer to projects, they'll probably do some of this stuff specifically for those. So once you start talking about, say, Sunview, they'll probably do an educational piece like that as well with large size print, so people can see what the impetus is for
Some of those
doing those
pictures
projects.
of the Sunview were just no brainers, right there, you take a look at it.
Right, it's one of those things where you just don't know what the condition until you
Right.
Yeah.
physically.
And explaining
No.
it doesn't
Camera,
do
yeah.
justice to the
no,
pictures.
no,
Right.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing.
It
Yeah,
is.
definitely.
It is.
You guys do a tremendous job, and I
Yeah.
just wanna
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, that grant did a tremendous job. It really did, showing us where all the problems are. I mean, we knew where a lot of the water problems are, but
Well,
I
there was
didn't realize
surprises too.
Sunview was like that.
Yeah,
I
that was a
really didn't.
surprise.
Was it to you?
Yeah,
Well,
it was to me.
it wasn't a surprise to me, but yeah.
Well, and you guys should give yourselves a little bit of credit too by using that as an opportunity for the water and streets too, because that was really
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, because that's out there now too, so it's a good planning thing, and we thank you, and we thank you for putting that all together, so I think it'll help us if it forgets through our
I
head.
know, it's been a lot to absorb, all
Yep.
those special meetings, I'll tell you, just a lot, you know, and we don't do that every day, and it's like, what's he talking about? You do take it home and look at it and say, well, what the dickens is on this graph here? You know, you have to take it apart. But anyway, ultimately, it ended up being helpful, yeah.
Great. And then I also just wanted to touch base that later in roughly a week, we'll be meeting to have a ArcGIS, that's what these maps are created from, a training session with the DPW and village staff to really get going on that and being able to use it on the field and integrate it with changing meters and things of that nature, so.
And they're also gonna be working with our
BSNA.
BSNA software, so that
Okay.
when they can run reports when they do work in the field, we can import it easily back into our utility billing software. So the girls in the office can have the same information that the guys out in the field do in a sort of a different way. So that when they look up somebody's account, they can see, yes, we did get this piece of information and this information, so now we can mark that off our list, so.
Okay, and you find that system easy to work with?
BSNA?
Yeah,
Yes, and anytime we have any questions, if we can put in a support help desk, they call us back right away, and they are so helpful going
Good.
through everything with us, and they can kind of, they guide us, and they're
Okay.
really good to work with.
okay,
And with that annual fee that you guys just paid, it's like $2,500.
yeah,
We have unlimited support through that, so.
okay, that's really a good deal, because the last people, even a long time ago, was way more than that.
They're really good to us.
Any other questions, on this report?
In the training Neil's talking about, we're gonna try to start using the iPads in the vehicles, and there'll be a lot of fields that we can fill in that will be useful, like the new lead and copper rule, collecting data for future reports and stuff like that. So-
Okay, and you feel comfortable with it too? Or you
Well,
think you
we're
will
gonna,
when
we're
it
gonna
gets
use
done?
it.
Okay,
I mean, it's new, but
is it gonna be in every vehicle,
we have two.
or trucks?
They've got two iPads that they can take physically with them to the house, so.
Okay.
And then we have a laptop
Okay,
that they can move around and do whatever they need to with it.
okay, and now, so that if we have a water break somewhere, as it goes along, we'll have much more information to that
Should be able
area
to
than we've ever
access
had
the
before.
as-built plans right from the iPad, and stuff,
Okay.
so we don't have to run back.
And where shut-offs might be and
Look
where,
at paper maps and that kind of stuff. so.
okay,
Yeah, so if there's a water main break, they can add a note in there to say, okay, we repaired this with a 4-inch clamp on X date,
okay,
so that they can look at it again and say, oh, well, this one broke 5 months ago, and now we're back at it, and this is what we did to fix it.
okay.
And they can physically walk right to that clamp and be standing right over it with the iPad.
It has the capability to basically GPS code every step, so when you input information on, say, a water valve, you can use the GPS system and then find it immediately again.
What are you gonna do with all those mail?
We're gonna keep them.
You don't have to archive them, they won't all be on the,
They'll all be on the GIS program, right?
Okay.
Neil?
Yeah, and
But we'll
it's,
still keep the paper back,
Okay.
so,
yeah,
yep, and I don't see that as being just a one-time training,
yeah.
a half hour and a phone call.
Yeah, we're gonna use into one portion, get
Okay.
used to using it, then keep building on it. I think the as-built plans is probably the first thing we'll focus on,
Right.
because it'll be the most useful, so,
Okay.
to start with.
sounds good.
Thank you,
Thank
Neil.
you.
Thank you. Let's see, building inspector report,
Boy, that's small,
About one.
not much growth, not much happening.
no. Did you skip police?
Yep.
I forgot.
Yes, you did.
Police department report, John, anything?
Just, it's all there. Typical month, pretty much.
I noticed we don't get anything with the names of the officers on it anymore. I guess I don't even know who's working here anymore.
Like a
Roster,
roster with names and numbers on it. You could,
just
print one up.
names, I think we have some new people that I saw mentioned on Facebook that I didn't recognize the name of. Something that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel uncomfortable not even knowing that a person is working for us.
Yeah,
It'd
we
be
can,
kinda nice if we could meet them, that we
Pretty
could.
that could be arranged too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's 2 out there right now, I can have them come in.
okay.
Hey, works for us.
The brand new ones?
Well, they're not the brand new, but.
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe you need to prepare them for this.
Yeah. You don't wanna make them nervous. Okay, getting there.
I know.
We got a code enforcement report yet, nothing? That's it.
Well, building inspector and code that's the same guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
We've been working on that big list that we gave you last time. We haven't
One
done,
place looks, yes, sir. Across from the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked really hard on that one. It took a long time, and there were two right next to each other, and it was a father and son thing.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and so we kind of took it easy on the last month because we were still working on some of that stuff. But actually, we have one of the police officers is going to take over some of the code enforcement stuff since they're out there anyway. So he's going to start working on that more frequently than Mr. Kehoe is here twice a week. So it's not a lot, but so they're going to start working.
What about
on
the
it.
guy on Bell?
Which one?
The water guy on Bell. They're across from the funeral home on Bell.
The new apartment
The
complex.
water.
He met with Rob Kehoe this week, I believe, on Monday, and they, I believe, scheduled a whole slew of inspections and permit applications to be done. So, I think they're gonna try to work to get it up to code instead of
Okay.
trying to just get the water turned on. But
Okay.
he needs to have everything inspected, and there was I wanna say there was an open mechanical permit from the 80s or something that was never final, so Rob has the ability to go in and do those inspections before they can open up and get a certificate of occupancy, so.
Okay.
So he's working on that one too.
Alrighty. Public comments, again, anybody else got anything they wanna bring up, talk about or anything?
I'll talk if no one else has anything. I do like talking. So I first of all apologize for being tardy here. I was over at the Chesney and Brady Township Fire Board meeting.
Who are you?
I'm sorry?
You didn't
Oh,
introduce
he's our-
yourself.
Oh, Kyle Harris, County Commissioner.
Thank you.
I would hope everybody by now would know who I am. I at least just want to come up here and just, say hi while I'm here in the office. I hope Bill did a better job than I was to answer your questions regarding mosquitoes in the village. He's way more knowledgeable about the subject than I am, so appreciate him coming out here. I just really want to come out while I was here and just see if there was any other questions. I don't really have a whole lot to update you guys on. Kind of looking down the road, I have no real information to give you, but there's some of the rumblings going on up in Saginaw, millages for next year, millage proposals. I heard that possibly Cass Museum is gonna wanna come back with a millage proposal since that one got shot down last year. I heard possibly the Sheriff's Department is gonna come back to millage. I believe a millage increase. Civic Center, I heard they're probably possibly gonna come back for a millage increase next year. We had a meeting yesterday regarding a Veterans Trust Fund millage. In my opinion, that meeting didn't go very well, so we'll see where that goes, but that would be a millage. The group pushing it is trying to use some federal statute to pass a millage. And if they could get it the way they want it to, that would never go to the voters. That would be a simple majority vote of the Board of Commissioners would implement that. Unless, see if I can word this correctly. I think what they're looking at right now is a 0.10 mil. Saginaw County's mill rate is 4.85. If we, per state constitution, go over 5 mils, then anything has to go to the voter. Personally, I'm thinking that's why they're keeping it so low, is it would keep it under that threshold so it doesn't trip going to the voter. I don't like that thought at all. And it was just a group coming in, trying to have the county try to fill the gaps where the federal and state governments are falling for trying to help veterans in the county. Unfortunately, that federal statute doesn't necessarily fix their situation. So I don't know where that's gonna go, but I do think that something may come of this at some point in the future, at the very least, looking to try to provide some sort of like transportation to get veterans to the VA, whether it be in Saginaw or out of town. But again, there's no framework, no nothing. I was very disappointed in yesterday's meeting. I was hoping somebody could have provided us a dollar amount, what it's to be spent on, some real material to work with, and there was nothing given. So like I said, yesterday's meeting to me went very poorly, but I suspect at some point something might come to fruition out of that. At least it might be starting the conversation. So that, like I said, those right now, I have no real basis for any of this. It's just rumblings going on, but I do want to make you guys aware as soon as possible that those could be some of the possible millages coming up next year if they pass the board. But most of my colleagues believe they have a hard time voting anything down, so. My thought is, once it makes it to the ballot, the city's probably gonna vote for it, and you're gonna get stuck paying the bills. So I at least wanna make you guys aware of those. Other than that, I have no significant, new information to share with you guys. I've just been out and about, went on a couple of night shifts with the sheriff's department. That's something I do like to do, is go out and see how our various county departments are, how they're operating, what they're doing. Gives me a better insight, so that way I can take that information, helps me make better votes at the board. Last year I went out with mosquito control, saw how they do some things, it was pretty informational. So other than that, that's all I have for you, unless anybody has questions.
You said the Dow might be going for a millage?
Yeah, I believe they're gonna go for a
What's-
millage increase.
What's that for? What do they need? They just had a record turnout on just about everything, right?
I'm not sure what, I know they've done some work here in the last year or two. Redid locker rooms, scoreboard. From my understanding, what I was told is that they were going to then want a millage increase to reimburse them for, some of the work that
For
they've done.
turning a profit? We have to pay them for turning a profit?
Yeah, that's, I laughed at it too, so I said, as of now, I can't say anything. If it was up to me, we'd, sell the hockey team that
Who
building
owns
for
the parking ramp?
Civic Center, the county.
The county owns
The
it.
county owns the parking ramp along with the building,
Okay.
so that's a joke too.
Did they try to put a lot money for that, and then there are 2 floors that are closed, right?
Yes, so that last time the millage went through, some of the money in the millage was supposed to go to fix up the parking structure. There was enough wiggle room written in the language of the ballot measure, so some of that money was diverted away from the parking structure and built the open air amphitheater right next to it. Then there became not enough money to fix the parking structure, so a couple floors are closed due to safety concerns. I think you cannot go above the 3rd or 4th floor. So that's been in conversation, to fix it, and how would they fix it? Would it go by a bond? Would it, next time the millage comes up, would they increase the millage to help fix that? I haven't heard anything more.
Could do it the way they did the animal control, pass a millage to rebuild or to fix it up and then find out that it's not even usable.
Yes, and I don't know if I discussed that the last time I was here a couple months ago regarding the animal center. So when the millage was passed last year, it was sold to you guys that the new animal center would be built on the same property. They would build part of it, level part of it, and then continue adding on. Suddenly that is no longer the plan. Somehow all those feasibility studies they spent money on in the last couple of years, now tells them that that's not a feasible property. So now they're looking at other properties from around the county, mainly up Bay and Tittabawassee, Bay Road, Tittabawassee Road. There's arguing various arguments. Some factions want it up there, Saginaw, Cotchville Township. Other groups want to keep it in the city. For various reasons. The city wants to, help revitalize the city, and, government buildings are the way to do it, apparently. I don't see that working out too well.
Put it in the civic arena.
I'm sorry?
They got room in the civic arena.
Don't know it. The other argument is, and mainly pushed by the volunteers, is that, they don't want to go into the city. It's a hard time finding volunteers who are willing to go into the city. It actually upset me very much the other day. I got a letter from a member of that advisory board who is supposed to provide recommendations and advice to the Director of Animal Control and to the Courts and Public Safety Committee, therefore an extension of the Board of Commissioners. And I got a letter saying that we need to put it up in Tittabawassee Bay Road area, so that way it's easier for residents of Bay and Midland counties to access. Because they want to make sure, residents from Bay County and Midland County and Northern Saginaw County can access it. It just so happens, that meeting that I got that letter in, the Director of Animal Control was right there, asking for a waiver of a hiring freeze to hire more employees. And I had to ask her, why would I be voting to give them more money, or allow them to spend more money, when in this whole letter specifically lists out various regions, but I asked, where's Southern Saginaw County? Why is that not even, you specifically list Northern Saginaw County, but there was no mention of Southern Saginaw County. So, you know, you're worried about Midland and Bay County residents being able to get dogs, but yet we are completely forgetting half the tax base in this county. The director assured me that that one individual does not speak for the whole organization. So we're gonna have a meeting set up here. I'll be out of town for the next, leaving end of next week, I'll be out of town for about 3 weeks, so when I get back, we'll.
For what?
I will be on my honeymoon, so. So when I get back, we are gonna have a sit down and a nice chat about the animal control, and see what they got going on. I think that is the biggest cluster right now. I think they absolutely lied to the voters. I think they knew damn well that that property was not going to be sufficient. But I think that was the only way they thought they could sell it to the voters and get the money that they needed. And now, not only are they saying that that building, you're gonna have to spend more money to buy the new property, they had to go out and spend $80,000 on new feasibility studies to look at some of the property that they're doing. Which I voted against it, but I was only one of 11 who voted against it, so.
Well, getting to Tittabawassee, what's gonna happen when the Fashion Square Mall closes up? I mean, Sears is going under, right?
There's hardly anything in that mall.
There's nothing left in the
Yeah.
mall, so that's gonna be a vacant lot.
Absolutely,
So we put another building out there in an area that's not gonna survive?
yep. Yeah, I think it's a joke, I really do. I told them you got 3 choices that I would be somewhat favorable to. Either A, keep it where it is, I was laughed at. B, one of the other options is where the parking lot is, I don't know if you're familiar with the parking lot is, where the new jail is being built. You could build it there, and then where the old jail is, we level that and turn that into the new parking lot. Other commissioners are on board with that, that was one of the options we were provided with. Or my third one that I like the idea of, and no one seems to wanna take grasp of that, is building it out on the property the county owns out there at 52 and 46. That meets all their criteria, main highways, you can see it. It's not next to people who's gonna be concerned about dogs barking. It gives them the room to grow that they think they need. It hits a lot of nails on the head, but the argument I was told is, well, if you're a manufacturing company going into a tech park, you don't want an animal center right next to you. So I'm like, you're gonna, what, disrupt all of 2 businesses there?
We have a tech park here, we put an animal.
You could, no, absolutely, and I've had
I was
people
just thinking.
from this part of the county calling me like, hey, what about our property we got for sale? Pula's, they called me about their, give me information, I'm happy to pass it along to the county.
I've never heard of that being a concern with any manufacturing
I never heard of it either.
No,
Yeah, I
me
can't
either.
I can not imagine if you're a manufacturing plant, you're gonna be worried about dogs
Heck, we
barking.
got a
Yeah.
funeral home in ours, we put a dog thing in there.
I'm guessing those manufacturing facilities are probably louder than the dogs.
I would
when
think
they're-
I would
you're
think
absolutely
so.
right. I would think so. It just doesn't fit their agenda, is really what in my opinion, what it boils down to.
I know this is gonna be a dumb comment or statement or whatever, but wouldn't it be nice to have a way to balance all of us out in the outlying areas, our votes and stuff with the city of Saginaw and the township, you know what I mean?
It would be nice.
Isn't that what gerrymandering is?
Not gerrymandering, but I like an electoral college for the county, do you understand what I mean?
I do understand what you are saying, and we'll see how things go here with the new census coming up. I already started having those conversations with the clerk's office about reapportionment of commissioner districts. They did suggest that the city commission districts could be getting a little bit bigger, because people are moving out of the city, and then the outlying districts could be getting a little bit smaller. However, they did mention that mine might actually get bigger. I already have the largest district in the county, so. On one hand, that's not a bad thing, on the other hand, 8 townships is already enough. But, no, I do absolutely understand what you're saying, and personally, in my mind, that's why you're getting stuck with all these millages. I went back and looked at the last turnout, and out of all 4 millages that went through, 3 went through, but all 4 that were proposed, this part of the county voted against 3 of them. 911 was the only one that was passed with help from this part of the county and not by very large numbers.
Yeah, I watched that too, and that was my comment, when I look at the voting, we're very much, clustered in one area, what the whole county has to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's, again, my argument is, when I go to the board and, the organizations come to us and ask us for millages, I voted against all 4 of them. Because my argument is if it doesn't make it to the ballot, it can't pass. But I think I'm the only one who voted against the millages. So.
I'd like to thank you.
Yeah.
Not a problem, not a problem. So, you know, I try to gauge everybody, that's why I come to these meetings and like to give you guys a heads up, what millages might be on the radar, and I like to inform you guys as much as possible what the dollar amount's gonna be. And I like the feedback.
Always feel free to come back.
Absolutely, well, hey, just live a couple blocks over, so never too far away. So with that, I appreciate your time, unless anybody else has any questions.
Don't think so.
All right, sounds
Thank
good.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay. At this time, I'd like to adjourn to go into into closed session.
Need a motion.
I need a motion for this.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
We go to close.
I'll second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. If you wish to stick around, the meeting will continue in a while.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, good night.
Yeah.
I've set it down here before.
Hey, Don, when the guys, I know you got a lot of stuff ahead of it, but when the guys got time, my road up this way, there's
Is there a motion to close the closed session?
Go back into open session.
Go back into a
Open session.
open session again?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I need a motion for the agreement.
I make a motion, we accept the employment separation, severance, and release agreement.
I will second.
Second? Should that be a roll call? Should be.
Should we have a roll call?
You might as well, it just sounds
Yeah.
good,
I would think
that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay. Tylee?
Nope.
Coots?
Yes?
Newman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Horner?
Yes.
McPhail?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Tylee?
Yes.
Motion's carried 6-1. Okay. Oh, we're ready to go.
I make a motion that we accept the Spicer Group, proposal for a search for for the interim manager agreement.
I'll second the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Probably a roll call.
It doesn't, they just want signatures.
Do we need do we need a roll call for that?
All those in favor?
No.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried.
And I make a motion that we accept the Spicer, agreement for a new village manager search.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. That's it?
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn? Are we doing a roll call or motion to
Well,
adjourn?
I would really like to thank Matt for the service
Yes.
and, wish him all the best.
Really do.
And also, we need to have that paper signed, that agreement
All of
paper
them.
needs to
I have a copy here which maybe Matt can make copies of, so I can take a copy with me also, so.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
That's the separation agreement, right?
Yes, so we can decide now, or after the meeting, we can decide.
And we can sign these other agreements after the meeting too. I have an original from Spicer, so we can sign those and
Okay.
file them.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn then, can I
I
make a
think
motion?
so.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank everyone tonight for